everybody. This is Chaplain Andrew Krasowski with Mother Teresa Hospice, and I'm here with our social worker, Trish Campbell. We are doing our second part of our series, Care for the Caregiver. And today we're actually going to do the COVID-19 concerns for hospice patient and family members. Our last presentation, I know we were going to talk a little bit about power of attorney, and we are going to get to that, but we kind of felt this would be a little bit more relevant to what's going on in the world today. So Trish, great to have you back for the
Thanks.
presentation again.
Thanks, Andrew. Good to be here.
Yeah. So just let's start out. Would you share with everybody how COVID-19 has impacted the patients and families you visited, and particularly due to social isolation concerns?
The disruption brought about by this pandemic has greatly impacted the ability for patients and family members to receive that connection and support that they need in order to cope with that person's terminal illness and their limitations. Hospice patients and their family members and friends really need to have close connection with one another, which includes face-to-face communication, physical touch, and being in close proximity to one another. So this social isolation predicament has created a barrier to patients and families receiving and getting the support that they need.
Yeah, geez, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think we've seen this a lot with doing hospice care for as long as we have. You know, our patients really look forward to those interactions, not just with family members, but a lot of the support staff that hospice brings into their family home, into their facility where they live at. And that normal, and you know, that's a word we keep using so much around here, this quote unquote new normal. Well, for hospice patients, there isn't a new normal. There's only really one way to take care of hospice patients. And you know, we've proven in our profession that it is an effective way. So of course we can combat how we do things in a way that kind of works with what's going on with a pandemic. But those hospice patients need to have that type of support consistently for them to prosper, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So secondly, what are some of the issues and feelings patients and families are experiencing as a result of the COVID-19 restrictions? And if you could maybe talk a little bit more before we even go into that about what are some of the restrictions that these patients have been facing?
They have not been able to have visitors in facilities. That includes personal care homes and nursing home facilities. So the visits that they do have are through the window. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but there are no face-to-face visits, particularly in the facilities where we have patients. The other issue is that there are family members or friends that have immunosuppressed issues. They might have lung disease, heart disease, so they would not even be able to go into the facility because of any potential of being infected with COVID-19. So this has created a dual problem on both ends for people, and has really created incredible isolation and disconnection from people who they need. Patients and families who are socially distanced from one another creates all sorts of feelings: loneliness, anger, fear, resentment, sadness. Patients may feel abandoned by family or friends who are unable to visit them. If they have any memory loss or dementia, they may not fully comprehend the reasons people are not visiting them. And that's really significant. The worst case scenario for someone who is dying, anyone who is terminally ill, is to not have the comfort and supportive presence of people whom they love. That's the number one risk factor to not have a peaceful passing emotionally.
Yeah, I think, as we're starting to see some of the facilities come back around to allowing support staff in, and of course with proper restrictions, we're taking uh, you know profound uh, dynamics to be able to make sure that our hands are gloved and we're wearing N95 mask and different dynamics. But I've seen a lot of the patients that we have didn't get to see for quite some time. They were just so happy to have us coming back in and seeing them again. It
Mhm.
really, really brightened their day. And brought back to them some sense of, hey, these are the people that I really look forward to seeing on a consistent basis. So I've personally have experienced that over the past couple of weeks, and it's for us hospice workers, I think it's very gratifying as well. To be able to get to see our friends and the people that we care for. What is the hospice team able to do to support patients and families with these issues?
Our role is to bridge the gap with communication between the facility staff, the family members, and patients receiving hospice care. And that also includes patients who are at home, whose family members may be living out of town or out of state who aren't able to be present. Um, we need to support these families who may not be able to visit their loved ones by listening to their feelings and concerns, their frustrations. We need to listen with empathy and provide education and support, so that they can cope more effectively with the loss associated by these restrictions. And having a terminal illness and knowing that death is imminent is a loss, but there is an incredible loss beforehand associated with the restrictions imposed by social isolation with this virus. So it's magnified the loss tremendously for people, and created all sorts of feelings that perhaps would not have been as intense as they are.
Yeah, I think we've seen situations. I know one of our patients passed away at the onslaught of when this started with the COVID dynamic.
Mhm.
And we had to take very different routes in terms of how the patient was seen at the end of his life. And then also the funeral arrangements were very interesting.
Mm.
Thank God we were able to be able to make it work. But there's just a lot of different dynamics and a lot of sense of loss, not just by the family, but I would also say a lot of the friends and support staff that were not able to visit a lot of these folks at the end of their life. And a lot of these people, we're not talking about passing away from COVID-19. We're just talking about death. So people that just lost a loved one due to quote unquote old age. We always say old age, but we know that most people don't die of old age.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
but they've been affected as well in terms of being able to mourn appropriately. And I know you do a fantastic job with a lot of different bereavement groups that are available. I'm sure we're going to talk about that down the road with one of our sessions with the great bereavement groups that you offer people around our area. Um, would you share some specific ways you've been able to assist patients and families with the stressors brought about by this pandemic?
During our visits, now this is in facilities particularly, we can contact the family, and we can brief them that we're present, we're sitting with their loved one right at that moment, and we'll put them on the phone. This happened yesterday. It was wonderful. I have a patient in a facility that has not been able to really speak with her daughter, who is her only close family member. And it was wonderful to see her smile as she spoke with her on the phone. And she updated her, told her how she was feeling, what she was going through. We can also FaceTime if you have an iPhone, a smartphone, with family members as well. Um, and these are called telehealth visits, which people are doing with physicians, but we're also doing them with family members where we'll exchange dialogue face to face on FaceTime through the phone and create a more meaningful opportunity to listen to their feelings and concerns. Um, One of the things we can continue to do is to read to patients. We can sing with them, we can read with them, read to them. We can look around the room and see if they have cards or letters sitting there. We can reread the cards and the letters to them. Um, we can also, in facilities, obtain updates from the facility staff, get specifics about are there any new symptoms, any new issues, particularly for me, the social worker, any new emotional issues or changes or problems, and then be able to talk to the family about what we've been able to do to support that person with maybe increased anxiety, increased depression, um, letting them know that the staff gave their loved one anti-anxiety medication 20 minutes ago and that they were more calm. These are some of the things I think we can do, but we need to listen well. And if family members are questioning why people aren't visiting them, and this is true for home patients as well, why isn't my sister coming in from North Carolina? And they may forget what the reason is. We have to assure them that they care deeply for them and that they will talk with them on the phone and they will make an attempt in the future to try to visit them, but that there's a virus out there and we need to be cautious and
Hmm.
careful about exposure. And that's an issue for people who would have to travel, particularly by airplane. If they're elderly or compromised, they probably won't do that. So again, it's about educating and supporting people um, through this loss and through this journey, because the journey has been altered. There's a journey that you experience on the way to the end of your life, and
Hmm.
it's not gone as smoothly as well as it would have due to this pandemic. It's really impacted our ability to do the kinds of things that we would like to do. And you and I have had, of course, some restrictions going into facilities since we're not medical staff. So much of our support has been without actually seeing the patient or being involved with them. So there's been a gap in that relationship where we had been visiting maybe once a week or twice a month, and then we went for a month or two with no visits.
Right.
How do you bridge that gap when you go back in and support the family? Um, that's not easy to do. We're doing our best, but it's a difficult challenge.
Yeah, and I would say, kind of in our profession as social workers and chaplains, um, I think a dialogue is going to happen after everything with COVID-19 kind of um, fizzles out, maybe the best way of saying it. And I think we're starting to see that more. But I think we need to figure out ways that we're going to be able to still provide for our patients. God forbid something like this ever does happen again, because this was kind of uncharted territory, and how do we go about doing this? So I think the telehealth stuff has come in play in a positive way, but obviously, the telehealth stuff, video conferencing, just lacks that human feel of person to
Mhm.
person dialogue and contact. So, what are some of the ways you've seen that facilities are providing for the patients so that they can remain connected to one another? And we're talking about nursing facilities by and large, I would assume, when we're
Mhm.
talking about facilities.
Um, Family members can contact the facility. Often they go through the activities director, but they need to find out who that contact staff person would be. And they can arrange what's called a window visit. And you may have seen this televised. Um, how this occurs is there is no direct face-to-face contact where you can actually touch the person, but you're seeing your loved one through a window. So they're bringing them down to the patio area, a courtyard area, where they can see them through the window. If the patient has a cell phone and that family member or friend has a cell phone, they can actually talk on the phone. These visits are generally shorter. They're not an hour long by any means. They're about 20 minutes or so, but they can be prearranged periodically. There's no limit on how many window visits. You just have to have the availability of a staff person to be with that patient. And they can also, when the facility staff are contacted, they can update the family um, on any symptoms, on any changes, on any issues, when they last gave medication. I think they have to really improve their communication, as we all do, to be able to discuss those things that you generally would know if you came into the facility and you asked the staff at the nursing station, how's my mother doing? Is she having any pain? Is she having any discomfort? What have you done? Um, has the doctor seen her today? These are things that are important for us to know as well. If our medical director saw the patient or had any intervention with them. So it's really utilizing a more enhanced team approach. We need to know what our other team members are doing more than ever, I think, to be able to share with families, because I think the chaplain, Andrew and I, we are like the liaison, I think, with this information. The nurses focus on and the home health aides on medical issues and personal care. They are involved in many things, but we're the person sharing that communication and then providing that support. Um,
Yeah, I've seen that a lot in our ministry. Is you know, a lot more people are willing to open up to more human dynamics with us than they are with the medical support staff. And I think rightly so. I think, you know, we come in there and we're just coming in to talk to folks as friends, and just, you know, come in and say, hey, you know, what's bothering you, or what do you want to talk about today? So we wear a lot of different hats, and in terms of what our patients and what their caregivers want to talk about. And sometimes when we're removed from that situation, we can't always give uh, you know, the medical personnel what's going on, you know, with their psychology and with their spiritual perspective. So that's definitely been a
mhm,
dynamic that's been lacking across the board for all hospice workers on our front, being able to kind of combat some of those tendencies with patients.
mhm.
All right, Trish. So, would you have any tips that family members can follow more effectively to cope with the isolation, the social isolation that we've been discussing?
I do. Try to take one day at a time and not obsess and worry and think about tomorrow. Um, there's enough to focus on today and think about today. And God even teaches us to not do that. Um, it's very hard to not do that, but if we try to live in the moment, I think that's the healthiest way to pursue this. Family members should stay connected by phone to the hospice team. We're here for them to support them. The nurse, the chaplain, you, Andrew, and I contact the family members after every visit. So we're there to listen to their concerns. Um, I would encourage people to explore other resources online or through their local community or church to see what's available to give them support. Um, you can certainly think about ways you can continue to be active, and that's not just physically active, but mentally active as well. You can engage in hobbies, play cards, play board games, do gardening, cooking, baking. Make sure you connect with family and friends, have long conversations on the phone. You can meet at parks or meet outdoors in someone's backyard and socially distance. Some people even found that cleaning a closet or sorting out some drawers, something they never had time to do, was something that kept them distracted. And then you feel good about getting something accomplished as well. It's important to think about the positive aspects of your life, what gives you meaning and joy. That may be prayer, reading. You can look at photo albums of your loved one and other family members. And lastly, try not to live in the fear of the unknown. We can't live in a bubble during this pandemic, and we can't control what happens day to day. But our goal is really to make an attempt to live each day fully and to think about how we're going to get there, how that's going to be accomplished.
Yeah, I think those are fantastic tips for everybody that's dealing with this pandemic, particularly with those that are in nursing, who have loved ones in nursing facilities. I know that's been very, very difficult, and that's been something that we have heard a lot of in terms of frustration. That being said, it is good to see that it seems like we're digging our way out of this a little bit. We're starting to see nursing facilities being a little bit more creative and allowing more and more family members and support staff in. So God is definitely good and is blessing us, and we're finally starting to hopefully see some positive light here. So I'd like to, obviously we're called Mother Teresa Hospice. I'd like to end with a little prayer that Mother Teresa prayed every day. Dear Jesus, help me to spread thy fragrance everywhere I go. Flood my soul with thy spirit and love. Penetrate and possess my whole being so utterly that all my life may only be a radiance of thine. Shine through me and be so in me that every soul I come in contact with may feel thy presence and my soul. Let them look up and see no longer me, but only Jesus. Stay with me, and then I shall begin to shine as you shine, so to shine as to be the light to others. Amen.
Amen.
Well, Trish, thanks again for
Thank
doing this, and we're going to come back again with a. I think we're going to do power attorney next time, or what's kind of on your mind for their next presentation?
I'll be discussing power of attorney, durable power of attorney, and advance directive, or commonly known as a living will, and what the importance are of having these documents and how to go about having them completed.
Excellent. Well, for more information, everybody, you can find us online at motherteresahospice.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. You can just search Mother Teresa Hospice. And we also ask that if you found this video to be informative and helpful, please share it with other people. It's a great resource for so many that might be battling with some depression right now, with some uncomfort on what's going on in the world. So we're here to give you guys tools that you can use from a psychosocial and a spiritual perspective that you can use for yourself, but we also ask that you spread this message out there and help all those people who might need help elsewhere. So once again, we thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Are you having a tough time making the best decision for your mom, dad, or loved one during this difficult time? Hospice care may be the right fit for your family. Mother Teresa Hospice has been faithfully serving the Pittsburgh region since 2002. We have been recognized as one of the top hospice providers in the region by Medicare.gov. We know it's a tough decision to make, but we are here to help you. Please contact us today at motherteresahospice.com.